Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.
It's time to turn off the lights and turn on the dark.
Chilling tales for dark nights.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome back to Chilling Tales for Dark Nights. I'm your host, Steve Taylor. Tonight's episode is a special one. We're revisiting the roots, the very beginnings of some of the voices you've come to know and love. The narrators behind tonight's tales don't just tell stories anymore. They helm entire podcasts of their own. That's right. Tonight we're showcasing 3 terrifying tales pulled from the original debut episodes of some of Chilling Tales' most celebrated spin-off series. Think of this as a dark little time capsule, one sealed in blood, buried deep, and now finally unburied. If you're new to the show, welcome to the darkness. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Your support helps us bring the fear week after week. And if you want even more of the macabre, head over to chillingtalesfordarknights.com. Become a patron of the terrifying for just $7.99 a month or less with an annual plan. And you'll unlock early access, exclusive content, and ad-free episodes so dark they might just stain your soul. And of course, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're always watching, even when you think you're alone. Now then, ready to dig up some nightmares? Let's begin. Our first story tonight is a chilling bedtime reminder that what waits beneath the bed might not be your imagination. This first tale aired back in September of 2021 during the premiere episode of Drew Blood's Dark Tales, a show that's now in its 9th terrifying season. It's written by Ryan Harville and performed by none other than Drew Blood himself, with that voice like a velvet shovel dragging you 6 feet down. If you like what you hear, and we think you will, be sure to check out the full archives on our YouTube channel. Just look for Drew Blood's Dark Tales playlist and relive where it all began. But first, pull up the covers. Keep your feet inside the sheets. This is Cold Hands, written by Ryan Harville.
Scott swam through the warm waters of a dream. He floated in a place he simultaneously recognized and knew nothing about. He was warm and comfortable and sleeping as soundly as anyone ever had. Back in reality, he stretched his limbs across the king-size bed he once shared with his ex-wife. He had always slept on the right side of the bed, huddled and balancing precariously on the edge of the mattress as his ex-wife took up the other 3/4 of the bed. She wasn't a large woman, just selfish and unconcerned with his needs, spreading herself over the mattress like a starfish. But she was gone now, and Scott slept directly in the middle of the mattress every night, his arms and legs placed wherever he wanted with no fear of being pushed over the edge again. In his dream, a cold current washed over him, and he shuddered as he crossed his arms over his chest. It was enough to rouse him from the dream for a moment as he fumbled for the edge of the blanket to draw it up to his neck. The task complete, he sank back into his dream, and in no time was snoring softly again. Time passed, and soon the bright dream waters began to lose their luster. The teal blue began to deepen to the purple of a fresh bruise, and the currents grew stronger and colder. They pulled at him, grasping his ankle and threatening to take him deeper into the murky violet below. Scott began to panic, flailing his arms in a pantomime of swimming. In true dream fashion, his movements were languid and ineffective. Scott sat straight up in bed, panting as the dream fell away from him. "Shit," he said in a breathless whisper. He flipped his pillow over to the cool side and laid back down, then smoothed the blanket back over him. He wanted the comfort, the weight of the blanket on top of him, but not the warmth. Somewhere in his sleep-addled brain, he vaguely remembered reading somewhere that leaving your foot uncovered helped to regulate your body heat while sleeping. He didn't know if it was true or not, but he stuck his right foot out from beneath the blanket before closing his eyes again. He was floating once more, but this time his head was above the water. He was near the shore and watched as people milled about in swimsuits, clutching their drinks, laughing, or lounging in the beach chairs. The condos in the background jutted up from the sand like tan and cream teeth drawn by a cubist. It was Gulf Shores, Alabama, the place he and his ex-wife had honeymooned all those years ago, but at the same time, it wasn't. She was there, near the waterline, wearing a black two-piece and waving at him, her feet covered in the foam left there by the waves. He waved back as a pang of sadness bloomed in his chest, followed by nostalgia so heavy that it threatened to weigh him down and drag him beneath the waves. Her waving grew frantic, her hand a blur of too many fingers, but her smile never wavered. Was she happy to see him? No. Even on their honeymoon, she had never been that cheerful at the sight of him. If only he'd realized that sooner, he could have saved them both over a decade of fighting and grief. The current slithered around his ankle, cool and gentle. He sighed at the touch, at the intimacy, the most he had felt in years. But it was cold. So goddamn cold. Scott woke again, the dream of the beach dissolving as he opened his eyes. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting a silver-blue rectangle of light diagonally across his bed. There, at the edge of light, was a hand wrapped around his exposed ankle. Caught between sleeping and waking, his mind couldn't process the sight, but the frigid touch sent a message to a deeper part of him, the animal part. The part that instinctively told his nervous system that something was very, very wrong. A precursor to a scream squeezed out from between his lips, half formed by his sleep-stuck tongue. Was all he managed as the hand clamped down around his ankle like a cold noose left swinging in a January storm. He was yanked toward the edge of the bed, and a true scream burst from his mouth. His pajama pants rode painfully into his crotch as he was nearly pulled off the bed. He kicked at the hand with his free foot again and again, with no result. Twisting himself around, he grabbed the nightstand with one hand, giving himself the leverage needed to pull himself up and to grab the headboard as well. The wood creaked as the cold hand redoubled its efforts, jerking his leg from side to side like a wolf tearing a mouthful of flesh from downed prey. Scott panted as his hand scrabbled over the top of the nightstand, desperate for anything that might help. The lamp toppled over and fell, crashing to the hardwood below. Pages fluttered like fallen leaves as his notebook followed. As hope was leaving him, his fountain pen rolled down the inclined top of the nightstand and brushed his fingers. He seized it with a cry of triumph. He twisted and flipped himself onto his back like a drowning fish and swung the pin down like a dagger, driving it into the mattress. "Fuck!" he cried, and pulled the pin out and back into the air. He swung it once more, stabbing one of the hand's fingers. The tip turned away when it hit bone and lodged into the soft skin above his ankle. He cried out as the hand released him and sank back into the shadows beyond the edge of the bed. Scott pushed himself all the way up to the headboard, the heels of his hands bunching up the sheets in his haste. He stared at the pin jutting from below his calf like the top of an exclamation mark. He pulled it out with a grunt, and a small splatter of blood peppered his face. Although the wound didn't look terribly deep, a steady stream of blood ran from it and onto the white sheet below, sinking into the fabric and spreading like reaching fingers. He grabbed the top sheet and wrapped nearly half of it around his lower leg. He sat heavily against the headboard, his chest heaving from exertion. Only a moment passed before he saw movement to his left. The hand shot from the shadows, and Scott instinctively took hold of the end of the sheet that dressed his wound. The hand tugged, but Scott had gotten to the sheet sooner and yanked it from the grasping fingers. "Enough!" Scott cried. "Who are you? What do you want?" No reply came, just the sound of his heavy breathing. "Look, I don't have much," he said. "My ex took damn near everything in the divorce. But I do have some cash in my wallet. A couple of $100, I think. How about I just give you that and you can go? And we'll forget about all this, huh?" Silence. Scott reached over to the nightstand and opened the top drawer. He reached blindly for his wallet. It was there, the leather rectangle surprisingly easy to find. And below it, he felt the glassy smooth surface of his cell phone. He pulled both to him in one hand. "So what do you say?" he asked, trying his damnedest to sound calm. "Deal?" No reply. He placed the pad of his finger over the print reader and his phone screen sprang to life. His thumb failed twice to pull down the menu, but the third time he got it and quickly touched the flashlight icon as he held the phone out before him like a talisman. "I see you now. You..." His words dried up in his mouth. The hand was there, about 3 feet above the foot of the bed. Scott's eyes traced the hand to the wrist, then to the forearm, the elbow, and another forearm, leading down to another elbow, which led down out of sight. Scott's mind blanked, like turning on the television to a channel that wasn't available. When coherent thought returned, a single image filled his brain. A long arm, segmented like a scorpion's tail, stretching down and below his bed. The hand retreated, and Scott heard the long arm zipping under the bed's dust ruffle. "It's under the bed," he breathed. It was impossible. The house only had one floor, hardwood over a concrete slab. And under the bed was a bachelor's mess of unused dumbbells, a guitar he never played, and boxes of God knew what. He shone the flashlight from one side of the bed to the other, as steadfast as a lighthouse's beam, waiting for any sign of movement. Still scanning, he brought up the dial pad and pressed 911. His thumb hovered over the call icon. What was he going to tell them? No way he could say the truth, not if he wanted help to arrive. A home invasion, a burglar or something. That could work, he decided. He made the call. After one ring, a man's voice came out of the speaker.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, hello?
Scott said, his voice just above a whisper.
This is Scott Madsen at 4012 Sycamore Lane. Someone has broken into my house and they're still here. I need help as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Matson, are you sure they're still inside the house?
Yes, I can, hear them.
Understood. I'm dispatching a unit to your location right now. My name is Chet, and I'll stay on the phone until they arrive. Is there a place you can hide, or possibly barricade yourself in somewhere?
The thought of trying to leave the bed while that thing was beneath made him shudder.
No, if I leave my bedroom, they could see me.
Okay, that's fine. Is it possible to at least get out of their line of sight if they decide to open your bedroom door?
Yeah, sure.
He lied.
The unit should be there within 10 minutes, so just sit tight with me here.
The front door is locked, but there's an extra key hidden to the left of the door near the bushes. It's under a ceramic frog my ex-wife thought was cute for some damn reason. But they can break the door down for all I care, okay? Whatever it takes.
I understand, sir.
Chet said.
Just try and remain calm and stay on the phone with me.
I'm not going anywhere,
he said, forcing a laugh. Minutes passed, but he didn't know how many. The thumping hoofbeat of his heart slowed back down to something resembling normal as he counted his breaths. He noticed his hand drooping, the beam of light illuminating his lap now instead of the bed's perimeter.
Scott?
Chet said.
You still with me?
Scott shot back up to a sitting position with the dawning horror that he dozed off. He set the phone down on the blanket beside him and rubbed his eyes with the hills of his hands.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, it's the middle of the night and...
I totally understand, but you have to stay awake, okay?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No need to apologize.
The phone flew and tumbled from him as the blanket was ripped away, coming to rest near the foot of the bed.
No!
Scott cried and lunged for it. The phone had landed face down, the flashlight's beam shining up to make a bright circle on the ceiling. The cold hand appeared from the dark, its fingers bright from being lit from below. Thick bands of shadows separated the light on the ceiling into shining slivers before its fingers closed over the phone and plunged him back into darkness. Scott jumped away, making himself as small as he could against the headboard. The hand lifted the phone, splinters of light spilling between its fingers. There was a series of low popping sounds, then a loud crack as it crushed the phone within its grip. He whined like a scared child and willed himself not to cry. What remained of the phone crashed into the wall less than a foot over his head. Drywall dust settled into his hair like fine snow as he screamed. All was dark again, and he didn't know how much more he could take. He felt he could hear the tension, a violin string being wound too tight, ready to pop at the slightest movement of his bedsheets.
Please, God. Oh, please, God.
He pleaded.
I know I haven't had shit to do with you in years, but if you could help me this once...
Footsteps in the hall, moving towards his bedroom.
Thank you,
he sighed. There was a soft click as the doorknob turned. The door opened a few inches and a flashlight shone through. Mr. Matson, a voice said softly. It's the police. Are you in there?
Yes,
Scott said.
I'm here.
The officer swung the door open wide and shined his flashlight to each corner of the room in quick succession. Scott could see most of the man by the light, could see the gleam off the gold on his badge and the silver of his wristwatch. He lowered the gun but kept it ready in one hand as the other flipped the switch near the doorframe. Light filled the room and Scott winced, closing his eyes to the brightness, but relieved it was there all the same. I'm Officer Hilton, he said. Are you injured, sir?
No, I'm fine. Listen.
I came right to you as quick as I could, but I still need to sweep the house. Will you be okay here?
No, officer. Listen, he's under the bed,
he said, the lie coming out easily.
I've only seen his arm.
Hilton lifted the pistol once more and stepped toward the side of the bed. "You, under the bed. I want you to stick out both of your hands. If you have a weapon, slide it out first. If I see a weapon in your hand, I will use lethal force. Do I make myself clear?" Nothing but silence came from underneath the bed. Hilton shot Scott a look. "You're sure he's under there?"
"Completely,"
Scott said, the words passing over the lump in his throat. Hilton knelt and reached for the dust ruffle.
"Don't,"
Scott said. "You're coming out of there one way or another," Hilton said, pulling up the thin material to look underneath. The hand shot out like a cannonball and grabbed the front of the officer's vest. Hilton cried out and grabbed the thing's wrist, trying to free himself as he aimed his pistol.
"Let go right now,"
he yelled.
"That's your only warning."
The hand began to push at the man's chest, the uncanny length of its arm coming out into the light, inch by merciless inch.
"What in the fuck?"
Hilton managed to say before he was lifted a few feet into the air and slammed back to the floor with enough force to crack the hardwood beneath. Hilton gasped as all his breath rushed out of his lungs. He was dazed but not out and took aim at the arm and fired. The shot was a deafening crack in the confines of the room. Scott screamed and put his closed fists over his ears. Another shot rang out before Hilton was lifted once more and slammed to the ground again and again. Scott's hope of rescue didn't fully die until he heard the crunch of Hilton's skull against the floor. Hilton's body went limp, and his pistol tumbled from his hand. Scott began to cry as the officer's body was dragged beneath the bed and out of sight. Moments passed as he stared at the open bedroom door.
"I can make it,"
he whispered to himself.
"If I can jump past its reach. It only comes out of one side at a time, right? I can do this."
But he continued to sit, fear rooting him to the mattress. From below, the bed began to shake.
"No, please, no,"
he whimpered as two arms burst out from under the foot of the bed. They grabbed each side of the mattress and shook it back and forth, trying to dislodge him from what he thought was the safest place on the bed.
"No! Stop it!"
he screamed. The hands retreated, and from beneath him came hammer blows as they pushed and punched the mattress from underneath. Scott jostled and bounced as the sounds of the box spring being pulverized echoed from wall to wall. He grabbed the top of the headboard, digging his fingers in like hooks while the mattress rose and fell like a ship over tortuous waves. There was one final massive push, and the mattress was off the bed and over the side, landing where the officer met his end. Scott's grip on the headboard tightened as the rest of his body fell into the gaping hole in what remained of the box spring. Sharp edges of broken wood dug bloody furrows into his stomach and thighs. He craned his neck and looked over his shoulder. The floor beneath his bed was gone. In its place was a long, cavernous tunnel, roughly the dimensions of his bed and plunging straight down. The edges were rough-hewn earth, as if it was dug by hand. And maybe it was, he thought, as his mind splintered, breaking against the pure unreality of the sight. One of the hands grabbed his ankle and pulled hard enough that Scott let go of the headboard with one hand. He dangled, his body turned to the side now, giving him a better view of the void below. The other hand took hold of his free ankle, and they began pulling him down in unison. Scott screamed at the pain in his fingers, at the strain on his shoulder. He looked down at the hands, at the unfathomable length of the arms as they stretched on and out of sight somewhere down below in the dark. A numberless line of elbows studded the arms at intervals, like knots on tree bark. With what rational thought he had left, he imagined the arms finally connecting somewhere miles below with shoulders, and those shoulders would lead to a neck, and that neck would lead to a head, the head of something, some creature living in the darkest depths, waiting until someone like him slipped their ankle from beneath their sheet, the bait too enticing to ignore. The pressure became too great, and Scott let go of the headboard. One hand stayed clasped to his ankle while the other wrapped around his throat, cutting off his scream. His panicked eyes shot from left to right, looking at everything and at nothing, before landing on the last thing he saw before he was dragged down into the dark. It was Officer Hilton's wristwatch, still wrapped around the wrist of the hand that held Scott's ankle in a vice-like grip. In the light of dawn, Officer Montoya parked his cruiser behind Officer Hilton's at the house on Sycamore. He thumbed the button of the radio clipped at his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is 19. I'm at Officer Hilton's last known. Over."
Copy. And Montoya? Be careful in there, okay? Hilton has been radio silent for almost half an hour.
"As careful as I can," he said, and stepped out of the car. Montoya unholstered his weapon and walked swiftly to the open front door. "Police!" he cried. "Officer Hilton! Are you in there?" No reply came from the shadowed hall. He picked up his radio. "Dispatch, no answer from Hilton. I'm going in."
Copy that.
Montoya pulled out his flashlight and held it out in front of him as he stepped into the house. "I'm warning whoever's in here," he yelled. "If you ain't Officer Greg Hilton, then you better have your damn hands up." He surveyed the living room. It was neat and tidy. No signs of a break-in or a struggle. Spotting the open door at the end of the hall, he slowly made his way to it, pausing for just a second before turning into the room with his pistol leading the way. The room was a disaster. The bed was just goddamn everywhere, like someone had planted a bomb beneath it. The mattress was a few feet away, and beside it lay a police-issue Glock 22. Montoya stepped closer and looked at the hole in the middle of the box spring. Nothing unusual there, just some dumbbells and boxes. A couple of bullet holes like pockmarks were dug into the hardwood. He thumbed the button on the radio once more. "Dispatch, I'm gonna need backup here. There's signs of... well, I don't know what kinds of signs these are, but this place is a wreck. No sign of Officer Hilton himself, but I found his pistol. Looks like he fired it too. I'm gonna sweep the rest of the house, but get some guys over here ASAP." Montoya looked down again at what remained of the bed. "And shit, send a detective too." Montoya prepared himself to sweep the other rooms. He'd never leave another officer in danger. That was priority and trumped everything else. There was a tremor beneath his feet. Small, almost imperceptible, but there. Montoya backed out of the room. Beads of sweat began to form on his forehead as he wondered just how much shit he'd get into with his supervisor if he just waited for backup outside.
That was Cold Hands, written by Ryan Harville and performed by Drew Blood, host of Drew Blood's Dark Tales. It's a cruel truth, isn't it, that what terrified us as children might just be real after all. Drew brought it to life like only he can. Slow, southern, and soul-rattling. If that gave you the chills, don't stop here. Head on over and check out the latest episodes of Drew Blood's Dark Tales, now 9 seasons strong. Subscribe and follow wherever podcasts can be found, and keep one eye open when you doze off tonight. Our next tale is a grim homecoming, a redemption arc gone horribly wrong. And like all the best nightmares, it starts with a key turning in a lock you should have left alone. This one first aired in August of 2021 as part of the inaugural episode of Fear from the Heartland, hosted by the booming voice of Paul J. McSorley. Now in its 6th season, the series continues to deliver horror with a Midwestern bite. This story's written by Ashley Fontainne, and if you're a fan of layered psychological horror with a touch of the spiritual, this one's for you. Go check out the Fear from the Heartland playlist on YouTube to see where the show began and how far it's come. This is Stained Concrete, written by Ashley Fontainne.
Chapter 1. Almost Free, Tucker Correctional Unit, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, August 15, 1995, 3:55 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Dan Kincaid stifled a deep sigh, concerned any noise would roust his slumbering cellmates. His entire body ached from the vicious brawl hours before. He lacked the strength to withstand another, so keeping quiet was a must. Rather than think about the beating, he sought out images of his wedding day. They filtered through his mind in sporadic jerks. Closing his eyes, he wished for sleep, yet was too keyed up, sore, and wary to drift off to La La Land. This year would have been, what, our 12th anniversary? Damn, I've lost so much inside these walls, including the concept of time. I can't seem to remember anything of importance any longer. Stop stressing. In less than 4 hours, I'll be a free man. No more foul food, sexually deviant cellmates, or mistreatment by the gorillas masquerading as guards. No more confinement like a mangy dog at the pound. Almost free. Kara's face the day they married swam behind his eyes, bland, boring features plastered with a huge, goofy grin. A thick waist and chunky thighs hidden by an enormous spray of red and white lilies. The ceremony and reception had been a typical 80s wedding, an opulent, over-the-top extravaganza full of flowing drinks, succulent food, and dancing until the wee hours of the morning, all funded courtesy of her well-to-do parents. No expense had been spared for the only child of Roger and Anita Crow, which is exactly why Dan asked for Kara's hand in marriage after the stick turned blue. He knew the second they met, she was the golden ticket to financial freedom. The image shifted, replaced by the one of her destroyed, bloodied face, matted blonde hair, and unmoving body splayed out on the floor of their garage less than 2 years later. That was the night his life was supposed to begin after hers ended. Anger sparked to life. Clenching his fists in the darkness, he checked himself. Now was not the time nor place to unleash years of pent-up rage. The sweet release of raw fury would come later. Reliving the memories was painful, yet certainly better than staring at the gray-stained concrete or the ever-present bugs fond of skittering across the floors and walls in search of a snack. Shifting his body on the uncomfortable mattress, mindful of the injuries to his face, his thoughts roamed back to the sweltering summer evening of 1985. A dark, sinister grin graced his swollen lips. I'm coming for what's mine. Dad always said a real man finishes what he starts, and I am my father's son. Chapter 2. A New Beginning, Outskirts of Perla, Arkansas, August 15, 1995, 10:55 a.m., Central Daylight Time. When Dan's feet touched the ground outside the security gates for the first time over 3,650 days, euphoria flooded through his chest. Upon sliding into the cool interior of Theo, Montgomery's fancy pants BMW, inhaling the luxurious scent of expensive leather and cologne, a wave of giddiness made him smile. The unfamiliar emotions switched over to irritation while staring out the window as he listened to his attorney prattle on about rules, responsibilities, and meetings with a parole officer. When they stopped at the DMV in Malvern to renew Dan's driver's license, an overwhelming sense of panic hit him. Hard. Would he be forced to explain in front of all the staff and impatient customers why his license expired, or the bruises and cuts on his face? What if someone recognized him, pointed fingers while running away in fear? How would he handle someone hurling accusations about the dastardly crime he committed in 1985? What if he snapped and did something stupid to send him back to the hell known as Tucker? The gut-burning angst turned out to be a waste of time. The DMV had no customers. None of the staffers looked familiar. The woman behind the counter didn't appear fazed in the least by the request for a new license, nor bat an eye while taking his picture or ask about the injuries. For the past 20 minutes, they had ridden in silence. Unfamiliar scenery whizzed by in a blur. Dan didn't recognize his old stomping grounds. Back in 1985, Malvern was a blip on the map, a population less than 5,000. Now new buildings, wider streets, heavier traffic, vast suburban sprawl, and an updated sign noting the population at 25,000 made him feel like a lone traveler reawakening in a foreign land. Rambling thoughts buzzed around inside his head. How would he find a job, afford a vehicle to get to and fro, or adapt back into society? Trapped in a loop of worry, he swallowed hard, glancing over at Theo. The loyal attorney had been the one and only constant presence in his life for the past 6 years after Dan's previous lawyer died. They had known each other since childhood, yet weren't friends. He knew the legal beagle's mannerisms and sensed something was on his mind he didn't know how to broach. The car slowed. Theo turned onto a road Dan did recognize, Ridgeview Circle. His stomach flip-flopped. Burning gastric juices jolted up his esophagus. The last time he had been down the bumpy pavement, he had been in handcuffs and stuffed into the back seat of a country cruiser. Honed instincts from years behind bars lit up, flushing his system with a rush of adrenaline. The fight-or-flight response went into overdrive. He sensed a trap. Theo wasn't a large man, maybe 150 pounds soaking wet and barely 5 feet 7 inches. Soft, dainty hands of a man accustomed to using his brain and not brawn. Dan could overpower him easily. The ability to sense danger kept Dan's 5'10" 10-inch frame mostly free from injury during his decade-long stint inside Tucker. Mostly. Fighting the urge to shudder as a barrage of unwanted, ingrained memories of all the times he suffered injuries, both at Tucker by bigger, meaner, nastier inmates, and the ones inflicted upon him while living in his childhood home, he lowered his voice. "What are we doing here, Theo?" "Reintroducing you to society." "I haven't spoken to my old man since I got sent away. I'm not ready to dive into the hornet's nest of our sour relationship. I've only been out of the can a few hours. I need time to reassimilate." Theo put the car in park, exited, and popped the trunk. Producing the small suitcase with Dan's meager belongings from the prison, he motioned toward the house. Raising his eyebrows, Dan said nothing while stepping out of the car. His body tensed, bracing for the ensuing fisticuffs with his mean-as-fuck sperm donor. What kind of twisted plan did the two cook up? A welcome home party straight from the bowels of hell? Keeping enough distance to form a counterattack or bolt into the woods should the need arise, he watched Theo walk over to the crumbling front porch and set the suitcase on the top step. "Sit. Enjoy your freedom, my friend. Hell, take off your shoes. Run your toes through the sparse grass and dirt of your roots. Anything is better than the rough concrete floors of prison, right?" Hackles still on alert, Dan focused on the front door. A foreboding sensation crawled up his back while waiting for it to open and the appearance of his father. "Thanks, but I'll pass." "Why are we here, not in Malvern? Like I said before, I'm not ready for a confrontation with Daddy Dearest. Besides, we're miles away from the halfway house. You said I'm supposed to be there at 11 a.m. for check-in. What happens if I'm late?" Theo smiled, extending his arms like a game show host announcing a prize. "This is your home now, Dan." Come again? Theo produced a key from his front pocket. Today's a mixture of good news and bad news. Which do you want first? The squawk of a lone raven from the dilapidated eaves made Dan jump. His mother was fond of saying the big birds were dark omens. Bad, just spit it out. I don't need a long-winded story, just the cold facts. As you wish. Your father passed away. He did? When? 2 weeks ago. I kept tabs on him over the years after your mom died of cancer. His health declined quickly during the last 7 months, you know. Possibly an early onset of dementia. I hoped the news would revive his spirits. I was wrong. There was a fire in the barn. He didn't make it out in time. His, cremains are at Eternal Slumber Acres. Mind spinning, Dan wiped rivulets of sweat from his brow. What's the good news? He left everything to you. The house, a new truck, and 2 bank accounts at Bear State Bank. Slipping 2 thin cards from his wallet, Theo passed them over. Dan gaped at them. Since when did Bear State Bank offer credit cards? How am I supposed to pay for any outstanding balance or a truck payment without a job? Theo chuckled, exposing a set of perfectly straight, bright white teeth. These are debit cards. Huh? They work just like a credit card, but with no interest. Funds come straight out of the bank account. Think of it as an electronic check. They were in the back of the freezer of all places. You'll need to destroy the ones with your dad's name. Keep yours. Your dad already set up the PIN codes. They are on the back of each card. I checked the land records. He recorded a beneficiary deed for the house and acreage over to you the morning before he died. Beneficiary deed? Non-lawyer lingo, please. The property remained under his ownership until his death and then passed directly to you. No probate will be necessary since the bank accounts were in joint names. Now, they are yours. I'll take care of the paperwork to retitle the truck into your name. Cost will be $50. It's a brand new Chevy, and he paid for it in cash, so you're free and clear. She's in the garage underneath a tarp. Stunned by the crazy turn of events, surprised his tightwad father splurged on a new vehicle, Dan remained silent while absorbing the happy news. How much money was in the bank account? Would it be enough to make much-needed repairs on the dump? He wanted to dance a jig at the revelation the old bastard bit the big one, yet he decided to wait until alone to celebrate. Theo straightened his tie while clearing his throat. I know he never came to visit you, but maybe this was his way of letting you know he loved and cared for you. Yeah, I'm sure that's it. Dan snorted while recalling painful memories of his youth. How many times did his father's beefy fists land punch after punch on his young body for one minor infraction or another? Way too many to keep count. For years, no one, except his petrified mouse of a mother, knew the true nature of the monster known to others as happy-go-lucky auto mechanic Arthur Kincaid. His mother insisted the dark secret be unveiled during Dan's trial. Sebastian Donnelly, his defense attorney at the time and Theo's mentor and former partner, agreed and used the abuse as a defense, convincing the jury Dan suffered a violent upbringing and simply continued the cycle with his wife after a wicked argument. Dan glanced around the unkempt 10 acres. All the legal mumbo-jumbo made his head spin. Was all this really his now? Did the cosmos finally cut him a break? A shadow of a smile curled his lips upward. The smile vanished as his gaze landed on the back acreage. For a split second, he swore the old man stood by the fence, sleeves rolled up, muscles bulging, face contorted in rage. The sour aroma of steel whiskey filled the air. The booming voice of his father sent ripples of goosebumps up and down his entire body. Come here, boy. Time to teach you a lesson. I gotta finish what I started. Willing the hallucination to disappear, Dan diverted his gaze, settling it on the charred remnants of the barn. He fought to retain control of his emotions and rein his thoughts back to reality rather than succumb to utter nonsense. Ignore the ghosts of the past. The old man's a putrid corpse now. He's also the reason you're free. Dan's head whipped around. Say what? He came to the parole hearing, begging for you to be released. Bullshit. On my honor as an officer of the court, I'm telling the truth. Perhaps he sensed his time was short. Facing death changes the hearts of even the darkest of souls. Maybe, but the key word there is heart. That son of a bitch didn't have one. Dan spit onto the dry ground. So, what about the halfway house? The sound of crunching gravel made both turn their heads. A tan Aries K stopped behind Theo's car. A woman with long legs, jet black hair, and enormous sunglasses sauntered their way. Her brown pantsuit fit a curvaceous body like a second skin. He hadn't set eyes on a decent-looking woman in years. He fought the urge to let out an appreciative whistle. Theo glanced at his watch while whispering, "That's Gina Renfro, your probation officer. Woman's always right on time. I pled your case with her after finding out about your dad's passing. I'll let her tell you about the halfway house." Gina grimaced at Theo. Dan surmised she overheard the whispered words. Removing a card from her purse, she set it on the railing. The sweet scents of lilacs and jasmine filled his nostrils. "Mr. Kincaid, I assume Mr. Montgomery informed you of who I am?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. You have him to thank for your new living arrangements. He's quite persuasive." She paused while taking in the entire area. "As long as you stay out of trouble, which of course includes no drugs, booze, overnight female guests, arrestable offenses, find gainful employment, attend your bi-monthly meetings with me at my office, and pass random drug tests, you may reside here, unsupervised." Dan's mouth dropped open. "No shit?" Gina gave a curt nod. "I'll need to inspect the residence before I leave to ensure no prohibited items are inside the house." I haven't been inside yet. I have no idea what's in there. Don't hold me accountable for what my father left behind." "I took the liberty of having the house cleaned by my housekeeper, Constance," Theo interjected, leading the way up to the front door. "It was a disaster area. The firearms were removed. We tossed most of the junk, including all the furniture, so what's in there came from goodwill. Constance is a dandy. Very thorough. The fridge and pantry are stocked with food, and she removed all the liquor." Eyebrows raised in doubt, Gina motioned for Theo to open the door, keeping her attention focused on the house. The sense of bleach and pine cleaner assaulted Dan's nose, immediately reminding him of prison. The underlying stench of his father remained despite the cleaning. Unsure of his reaction upon setting foot inside for the first time in over a decade, he hung back, watching the duo go from room to room. Gina's heels clacked across the old linoleum and stained hardwood with each purposeful step. He hoped the maid truly did perform a thorough cleaning and removed all the bottles of Johnny Walker his father used to hide throughout the house. In minutes they returned. Gina paused at the bottom of the steps. "Your first appointment is Tuesday at 9 a.m. Do not be late, Mr. Kincaid. The address is on my card, along with my beeper and office number. Excuses are not tolerated. Abide by the rules. All it takes to send you back to Tucker for the remainder of your sentence is one infraction. Understood?" Dan envisioned slapping the smirk off her pretty face. "Yes, ma'am." Waiting until the car disappeared around the bend of the road, he studied Theo. "Why'd you do all this? It's not like I was innocent and got framed. You read the case file and know I did it." "I'm aware. Just as I'm aware you made a mistake during a fit of uncontrollable rage after a triggering argument. You paid your debt to society and are a reformed man. I see transformation, and most importantly, so did the parole board. I'm the closest person to family you have left now, So what kind of attorney would I be if I didn't offer a solid foundation for you to walk down on this new path of life? Dan pondered the words, yet remained quiet. Was this really happening, or just a vivid hallucination? There's no one left to condemn you any longer, Dan. Reflecting on the past is a waste of time. Concentrate on building a better present and future. You've been granted a chance to start fresh. Take it and run. Pulling out a cigarette from his pocket, Dan lit up, inhaling long and deep. I doubt Kara would agree with your statement. She'll find out soon enough where I'm living. When she does, I promise you she'll do everything in her power to make life outside of prison miserable for me. No, she won't. Trust me. Trust you? I trust nobody. Blowing out a plume of smoke into the damp, humid air, Dan let down his guard a fraction. 10 years of keeping my ass clamped tight and a head on a rotating swivel, watching my back wipe that word right out of my vocabulary. Think what you like about the world at large, Dan, but not me. Walking back toward the BMW, Theo shook his head. You must trust someone sometime, or else that swivel head of yours will snap one day. Oh, by the way, the truck key is on the counter. Thanks. You have nothing to worry about. Kara died last month. Hit and run. Most likely a drunk driver. Why didn't you tell me? Theo shrugged his shoulders. You aren't the only client I have, Dan. Holy shit. I really am free? Only if you embrace your freedom. Don't allow the past to trap you inside the prison of your mind. Oh, and one more thing. What? Come by the office on Friday, say around 10. I have plenty of odd jobs for you to do until you can find permanent employment. With your reputation and record, it'll take time. Theo waved, hopped into the driver's seat, and sped off down the gravel road. Waiting until the cloud of dust settled, Dan kicked off his shoes before ambling over to the grass. Scrunching his toes into the blades felt glorious. He stopped after a few seconds when the raven screeched again, drawing his attention toward the house. The place that frightened him almost as much as the 8x8 prison cell. Could he do it? Could he live inside his childhood home? Face the fears of his past? Only one way to find out. Snatching his shoes and the key from atop the suitcase, he steeled his resolve. Upon entering, a wave of painful, terrifying memories slammed into his mind so hard it was as though his father's fist smacked into his brain. Taking a deep breath, he lit up another smoke, a habit his father abhorred. Seeing the place stripped of all mementos and with new furnishings was strange yet fascinating. That's the last time you'll hurt me again, you piece of shit. I'm glad you're dead. Saved me the trouble of taking you out myself. With purposeful strides, he headed to the pantry. Opening the cabinet door, he felt around for the hidden handle. A quiet chuckle escaped his cracked lips while pulling out 2 dusty bottles full of Johnny Walker. Hello, boys. Guess this isn't such a bad welcome home party after all. Snatching a bag of chips and the closest bottle, he headed back out to the porch. After removing the lid, he held the whiskey toward the sky. To freedom! He took a gulp, winced, belched, and laughed. To Mom! I'm sorry you married such an asshole. At least you're safe now while he rots in hell. Another long swig. The amber liquid burned a trail all the way to his gut. To no longer fearing my old man. Another swig, followed by a handful of chips. To sleeping alone in a real bed, with no fear. He chugged again. Lighting a smoke, he squinted while staring out into the overgrown field. Maybe Theo's right. Let go of the past. Concentrate on the future. It sure isn't what I had in mind when I left prison earlier. Not even in my wildest dreams. And I don't have to dirty up my hands to get what's mine. The trill of the house phone made him jump. He stood, fought off the rush of dizziness, and ambled inside. It took him a few seconds to locate the cordless phone, which was crammed in between the couch cushions. Hello? Nothing but dial tone. Ha! If you were looking for Arthur Kincaid, you're shit out of luck. Ding dong, the dick is dead. Dan laughed so hard he nearly fell while making his way back outside. Taking another drink, the relaxing effects of the scotch made his chest warm. Tikara, glad I don't have to finish what I started. You'd better still have the safe, and my share of the spoils. As the trill of cicadas filled the sweltering afternoon, Dan continued to drink, laughing until tears came at all the terrible twists and turns of his life during his 35 years on the planet. Chapter 3. Nightmares of the Past. Outskirts of Perla, Arkansas. August 16, 1995, 1:55 a.m. Central Daylight Time. From his hidden perch in the corner, Dan's heart rate spiked while watching Kara open the door from the kitchen into the garage. Just as he planned, she went straight to the metal door, examining it with a confused look, trying to decipher why a long piece of gray metal was shoved into the housing. Sweat trickled down his forehead into his eyes. It was time to get the party started. In a flash, and before Kara's pea-brain registered any sound, he attacked. His vision blurred as uncontrollable rage guided his mind and body. In minutes, the vicious onslaught was over. Taking a deep breath, instinctively wrinkling his nose at the pungent smell of her rancid blood, he smiled. Kara's body was face down on the cold concrete floor, unmoving, her thick honey-colored hair a congealed mass of knots. Her right arm was above her head, resting at an unnatural, awkward angle. Her work clothes were soaked in red. The crimson life force pooled around her head, forming a huge kidney-shaped glob. Pieces of her hair, with blood as the glue, stuck to the floor and the metal garage door. About 3 feet from her head, a small white object glinted under the glare of the single overhead light bulb. He suppressed a dark, evil chuckle. It was one of Kara's teeth. Her breath came in stuttered, small gasps. She only had minutes left. Standing, careful not to leave any footprints in the blood, he pulled the attic stairs down to give the impression of an accidental fall. Satisfied with his handiwork, he removed the metal bar lodged in the door and exited the area in the exact same way he entered it earlier, through the small window in the back, and then disappeared into the night. He made it less than a mile before the high-pitched wail of emergency vehicles pierced the stillness of the night. Running faster, pushing his aching muscles past the point of exhaustion, he zigzagged through the woods, guided by the full moon's radiant beams, until arriving at the berry patch at the edge of his parents' property. In a panic, he shed the bloodied clothes and boots stained with his wife's blood, retrieving the fresh sets he placed in a large garbage bag earlier by the fence line. Just as he slid on the left boot, his mother's scream of anguish tore through his core. "Dan would never do such a thing. You leave my boy alone. He loves his wife. Why would he hurt her?" Dropping the blood-spattered evidence into the bag, he snatched up several large rocks, tossing them inside. Slinging it over his shoulder, he sprinted toward the pond. He dove in, kicking his feet with all his might until hitting the bottom. Feeling around in the dark, his fingers grazed an old stump. Once securing the bag, he prayed the rocks were heavy enough for it to stay hidden in case it pulled away from the old wet tree. He had to get another breath. His lungs screamed for air. As his head broke the surface, the sound of a dog's menacing growl from his right made his heart flutter. It was followed by bright flashlight beams blasting into his face, temporarily blinding him. The splash of someone entering the water to his right barely registered before a strong arm wrapped around his throat, dragging him backward toward shore. "Move or even blink and he'll give Kubo the command to attack." The cop tossed Dan's soaking torso onto the shore. "He loves ripping holes in the torsos of monsters like you. You're under arrest for the attempted murder of your estranged wife, Kara Kincaid. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say..." Gasping for air, a scream trapped inside his parched throat, Dan fell, landing hard on his right shoulder. The vivid dream of the night he tried and nearly succeeded in killing Kara made his stomach revolt. Crawling over to the edge of the porch, he vomited, spewing potato chips and whiskey out like a yellow lava from a volcano. Screech! Glancing up, he spotted the raven on the porch railing. "Damn bird! Get lost!" Something sharp cut into his palm. He let out a low groan. Feeling around in the dark, he realized it was a large sliver of glass. The smell of whiskey hung heavy in the air. The bottle must have fallen from his hands and shattered upon impact with the hard wood. After wiping his mouth, he rose, heading to the kitchen to grab some water and search for something to stop the bleeding. He hoped Theo's cleaning lady left some bandages and peroxide. Flicking on the overhead light, something out of place on the fridge caught his eye. He peered closer. No freaking way. Stuck to the door with his mother's favorite magnet, "Bloom where God plants you," was Kara's wedding picture. Below that was the newspaper article from July 10, 1985, with his picture underneath the headline. Jury sentences local man to 20 years for first-degree battery against his wife. Next to that was the obituary for Kara Renee Crow, dated July 4, 1995. The final edition was the 3-sentence obituary for his father. Clawing through the haze of alcohol clouding his mind, he knew the items weren't there before. Rage bubbled up from deep inside his chest. Someone had been in the house while he was passed out on the porch. Someone was playing dirty little tricks on him. A loud thump from behind and to the right caught his attention. Spinning around, he stared at the raven perched on the windowsill. "Just you wait until I get myself a gun. I'll blow your carcass to pieces, along with the asshole responsible for trying to freak me out." Returning to the porch, he stared at the shattered bottle of expensive whiskey. He needed to drink himself into a stupor so he could sleep without Kara's ghost pervading his dreams. It was time to open the other. Taking in a deep cleansing breath of the hot, humid night air, he scanned the woods, looking for any movement. The scent of honeysuckle and night jasmine tickled his nose, immediately reminding him of his horrendous childhood. "Screw this. I'm too drunk to whip anyone's ass." After locking the door, he staggered towards his old bedroom, making it 2 steps down the hallway before tripping over something heavy and hard. He stumbled, yet remained upright. What the fuck is this? Bending down, he picked up a thick black binder. It looked like a photo album, but he really couldn't tell in the dark. Upon entering his room, he turned on the light, mouth hanging ajar while flipping through the pages. It was full of trial transcripts. More specifically, the damning testimony of the physician who treated Kara at the hospital. "Died in a hit and run, my ass. Theo, you idiot. Kara pulled the wool right over your eyes. Oh, you want to play games, huh, my pathetic ex-wifey?" Dropping the binder onto the floor, he staggered down the hallway. "I'll show you, bitch. I'll show you how a man finishes what he starts." Pushing the front door open, he plowed right into a body. The impact knocked them both to the ground. He heard a sickening thud followed by a low moan. His anger peaked. It was a female. "I'm going to finish what I started, Kara. Squeeze the life right out of you." Spittle flew from his lips as his fingers latched around a slender throat already slick with blood. A flash of black hair caught his attention. "Miss Renfro?" She tried to scream, yet the pressure of his fingers cut off the flow of oxygen. Dumbfounded by her presence, Dan let go and rolled off of her before scrambling to his feet. "What in the hell? Why are you here? Are you in on this? Part of Kara's plan? You paged me. 911, Gina whispered while rubbing her throat. Her eyes widened in shock as she pointed behind him. Look out! Before Dan could spin around, pain exploded in the back of his head, sending him into a pit of ebony nothingness. A decade of my life wasted while waiting for my love to regain the memories you erased. How's that fair, Dan? Where's the justice I deserve for my unending patience? Groaning, head a vortex of pain and confusion, Dan fought to open his eyes. Strange, squishy footsteps drew closer. There is no such thing as justice. Just ask Kara, the flimsy piece of paper issued by the court restraining you from contacting her during the divorce proceedings proved to be useless. And the law? Hell, old slick Sebastian used loopholes to persuade the jury you were sick and needed help. That's partly your mother's fault. I bet you didn't know she made a big spectacle at the office the day she hired him, stood at the front doorway and yelled out her demands, shrill voice carrying for blocks. The entire town had eyes and ears on the case, and she knew it. Sebastian didn't want his reputation shredded by having a client receive the death penalty. Ha! He even sought my counsel, asking my opinion on if he should play the abuse card. Of course I said yes. I needed you alive. That part was my fail-safe just in case Kara forgot the combination or died, both of which happened. Always have a backup plan, Dan. Always. A hot burst of fresh pain exploded in Dan's left cheek as Theo's foot connected. He moaned in agony. Sweat and blood streamed down his face as he finally managed, "Why, Theo?" You seriously have the audacity to ask me why? Give me a fucking break, like you don't know. Another round of pain, this time from his crotch. Terror thrummed inside Dan's mind upon the realization his hands were bound. Damp cold seeped into his back. Despite the pain, he forced his eyes open, choking back a gasp. Even with one eye swollen shut, you still recognize where you are. Appropriate, don't you think? The garage floor of the house you once shared with my Kara. Dan's mind spun to process all the stimulation. My Kara? What the fuck is he talking about? Gaze scanning the area, his mouth went dry. Inches away from his body was Gina Renfro's. Even in the dim light, he could tell she was dead. Shifting his gaze upward, he noticed Theo wore gloves, his entire body covered in what looked like saran wrap. Oh shit, I'm in trouble. Theo crouched down, yanking a handful of hair with his glove-covered hand, forcing Dan to stare into his demented eyes. Dan had to keep him talking until he could figure out an escape plan. His throat burned and it was difficult to form words from his swollen lips. Blood seeped from his mouth. I don't... You ruined everything, idiot. All of our plans. I loved her. You what? My whole life, ever since first grade, Kara was my soulmate. Not yours, mine. She cared for me as a friend, but damn, she fell head over heels when pretty boy grease monkey Dan Kincaid, former star athlete and quintessential bad boy, looked her way when she came back from college. Bland, boring, nerdy me ceased to exist in her mind and heart. Your looks and charm overrode the dirt underneath your nails and blue-collar job. She could have continued the high society life with me as the wife of a lawyer, but no, you knocked her up. On purpose. Tell me I'm wrong. Swallowing hard, fearing the response to the answer, yet more afraid of getting caught in a lie, Dan nodded once, instantly recalling the night he poked holes in the condom. You aren't. Theo's features contorted into an angry sneer. I knew it. Kara adored you and was thrilled the child with your DNA grew inside her, despite the misgivings of her parents. I cannot begin to tell you how difficult it was for me, to watch from afar as the woman I love carried the child of another and married such a worthless piece of trash. A loser, only after her for money. Theo let go and stood, pacing in small circles. Dan watched him pull something silver and shiny from his back pocket. Sweat and blood pooled around Dan's wrists, allowing him to slowly, steadily twist his hands to loosen the bindings. Imagine my surprise when Roger Crow came to my house late one night, so drunk he could hardly stand. I found out then I wasn't the only man in town disturbed by Kara's life choices. Roger's conscience bothered him. Actually, I think he was more concerned about legal culpability, but that's just conjecture on my part. Anyway, he told me how the tainted fruit of your loins stopped growing inside his daughter's body after his decision. He actually used those words, tainted fruit. Roger was an odd duck. Dan's simmering anger bubbled dangerously close to the surface. He kept it in check. Are you saying he killed my baby? That's impossible. Kara tripped and fell down the stairs at her parents' house in her 6th month of pregnancy. Yes, from a loose step on their front porch, the one loosened by Roger. And please drop the act. You didn't give a damn about your offspring. Maniacal laughter filled the empty garage. And here you thought your dad was a monster. At least you saw his attacks coming and could prepare for the emotional and physical onslaught. Kara had no clue her father was just as devious. The entire conversation with him was surreal. Roger rambled on about how the intentional miscarriage was an act of kindness. He didn't want his precious daughter saddled with a child fathered by you. The second part of his plan was to convince Kara to divorce you. Dan continued to slowly wriggle his wrists. The right was almost free. She loved me too much to leave. I don't believe any of this. Roger Crow was a pompous asshole, but he loved Kara. You know the fine line between love and hate? It's easily crossed when proof of adultery stares you in the face. Dan's eyes bulged from shock. What are you saying? All it took for Roger to cross the line were some vivid Polaroids, discreetly snapped by and hand-delivered to him by yours truly, Kara's concerned childhood friend. You're nothing more than a slimy bottom feeder. I knew I felt someone following me around a few times. Theo's smile was straight out of a horror movie. Dark, devious, twisted. I promise I had no idea Roger would cross over into the dark side. Believe me, I was shocked. The night of his confession, he cried like a baby, whining about how much he loved his little girl. I knew then Kara married a man just like her father. Cold, calculating, and evil, willing to do anything to get what he wants. She deserved better. She was a queen and should have been treated like one. I was her prince, her rescuer, swooping in on a white horse, ready to whisk her away from the men who treated her like garbage. So I told her the truth about the loss of the baby and her whore dog husband. I assumed she'd be so grateful she'd pack up and run away with me. Unfortunately, I was dead wrong. To my surprise and horror, she crossed the thin line, diving headfirst into hate, ultimately committing murder. Dan's right arm was millimeters away from freedom. The unanswered questions from the last few weeks prior to his attack on Kara finally became clear. Now I know why Kara watched me work on my truck and asked me so many questions. She tampered with the brakes on their car, causing their deaths, right? A shadow of compassion and concern danced across Theo's face as he nodded. Love and hate makes people do the strangest things, doesn't it? And money. Don't forget money, Dan hissed. So why all this? Why involve her? Theo glanced over at Gina's corpse. You must pay for your crimes. 10 years wasn't near enough. Everyone thinks you're a monster, and tonight proves they are correct. Not even 1 day out of prison and you murdered your parole officer after paging her in a drunken stupor. She showed up at your house. You attacked her when she wouldn't hop in the sack with you, panicked, drove her car here, and came in search of the money stashed in the safe, intent on skipping town. The police will conclude she put a valiant fight and landed a mortal blow before succumbing to the injuries inflicted by you. Death is what you deserved originally for hurting my beloved, but the information inside your head kept you alive, long enough for you to share with me. Again, always have a backup plan. You're certifiable. Theo brandished the syringe in front of Dan's face. We can do this the easy way with a stick and a sting, or we can go the violent route. Your choice. Dan's fingers slipped through the knot. His muscles tensed. You want the combination? Good luck. My lips are sealed. No way you're getting your filthy hands on what's left of Kara's inheritance. Knowing her spoiled ass, she probably spent it anyway, and all this was for nothing. You killed an innocent woman for nothing. For nothing? Theo yelled, face radiating crimson. The tip of the syringe was inches away from Dan's eyeball. I sat by and watched while a once vibrant, effervescent woman, full of vim and vigor and smart as a whip, withered down to an unrecognizable shadow of her former self. She never got over the shame and embarrassment for being duped into marriage and the deplorable action of her father. Heartache was permanently etched across her face. My Kara was once the life of the party and the girl everyone wanted as a friend. You destroyed those wonderful characteristics. Those amazing traits are embedded forever between the tiny cracks in the garage floor. She never spent 1 red cent of her inheritance because she locked it all up in the safe and forgot the combination after you bashed her skull on the floor multiple times. Now tell me the fucking numbers or I'll slice your junk off and shove the flesh down your throat. Dan's arms shot out from behind him. A loud crack filled the air. Theo's body flew backward into the wall. He sputtered and coughed up a huge dollop of blood as his torso crumpled to the floor. I can't move. Oh God, I can't feel my legs. You broke my back. Oh, that's too bad, Theo. But guess what? Not being able to feel any pain will be a blessing. Trust me. Whack, whack, whack. Like a deer caught in a spotlight, Dan froze in horror, stomach lurching at the disgusting sounds and terrifying visuals of wood connecting with flesh. The noise stopped. His frazzled brain finally recognized the face and voice of the man standing inches away, holding the blood-soaked bat. Dad? Howdy, son. Before Dan could blink, his father moved with lightning speed, smashing the bat into his right ankle. The bones shattered. Dan screamed in agony, wishing the house wasn't located in such a rural area. Give me the combination, boy, or the next whack will destroy your knee. Why, Daddy? Why? I'm your son. Snot and spittle flew from Dan's mouth. What did I ever do to deserve your hate? You lived after nearly killing your ma when coming out of her. You broke the only thing I ever loved. The cold, hateful response crushed Dan's spirit. Tears streamed down his face. You ran over Kara, didn't you? That's why you bought a new truck. Still a fool after all these years. No, I bought a new truck because I deserved one. You think I'm so stupid I'd use my own to kill someone? Dumbass. No wonder you got caught. I used the one Theo kept down in the deer woods, hot-wired it, and then took it for a spin. Right over Kara's back. A round of throaty cackles threw Dan's mind back into that of the terrified 6-year-old. I found out the little hussy's secret a few months ago because of him. Arthur motioned toward Theo's bleeding corpse. Boy had a bad habit of spilling his guts when full of moonshine, masquerading as sweet tea when he came by to check on me. One night he passed out after telling me things I shouldn't have heard, so I went and got the truck and paid my former daughter-in-law a visit. I tried to reason with the girl, offering to split her ill-gotten windfall 50-50. She kept beating me some bullshit about not remembering the numbers. Swore only one other person knew the combination. You. Hearing Kara's little bombshells when I decided to help you get out of prison early. Of course, doing so required Kara not attending the parole hearing as the poor distraught victim. I kept my eye on your legal counsel and knew he was up to something. He was so obsessed with Kara and lost his marbles after she died. He needed her money. Theo loved to gamble, lost his ass playing blackjack. Owed a chunk of change to some nasty thugs from Louisiana. Boy was a planner, that's for sure. Unfortunately for him, he was so focused on getting you out of prison and his hands on some cold cash, he didn't realize I watched his every move. Gotta hand it to the kid. The mind games he played on you tonight were epic. But book smarts and common sense are two very different skill sets. Dan felt something cool and slender against his leg. He knew immediately what it was. With slow, imperceptible movements, his fingers inched toward it. Whose body was in the rubble of the barn? Just some drunk I found passed out in Little Rock. Since the world at large thinks I'm dead, no one will come looking for me after finding this mess. I'm heading to the Caribbean. Always wanted to live on the beach. Question and answer time is over. Give me the numbers and I promise to end your suffering with one swing rather than hundreds. A guttural scream, born from the depths of his shattered soul, pierced the night air. Dan jammed the syringe into his thigh, pushing the plunger all the way down. Instant, burning pain tore up his leg. His chest tightened as his heart rate exploded. This time, murder isn't for money. It's for a reckoning. This time, you don't get to finish what you started. I do. No! The voice of his furious father was the last thing Dan Kincaid ever heard before succumbing to excruciating pain. His body convulsed on the cold concrete, stained with the blood of the guilty and the innocent.
That was Stained Concrete, written by Ashley Fontainne and performed by Paul J. McSorley, host of Fear from the Heartland. Concrete may crack, but some sins stay sealed in. And if Dan's story told us anything, it's that what you bury in your basement doesn't always stay there. To hear more from Paul and the kind of horror that sticks to your ribs, look for Fear from the Heartland, now entering its 6th season. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and stay tuned for what fear looks like in flyover country. Our final tale tonight takes us into the bowels of a house that holds more than secrets. It holds something sentient, something angry. This one debuted in November 2021 as part of Horror Hill, a show now in its 13th season. While Erik Peabody didn't start out as the host, he's been its defining voice for the last 8 seasons and counting. Written by W.B. Stickel, this story balances the haunted and the horrific, cosmic punishment, marital tragedy, and a room that should never have been opened. You'll find Horror Hill and its earliest episodes on our YouTube channel as well. Just head to the playlist section and prepare to descend. This is The Red Room, written by W.B. Stickel.
May 24, 12:18 a.m. Christ, what a haul. I honestly don't know how truck drivers do this day in and day out. Sitting for eons on end, bored out of your skull, navigating legions of douchebags in minivans and SUVs who think they own the road, enduring construction zone after goddamn construction zone. All that through eastern Wyoming. More than once, I wanted to put a shotgun in my mouth. No thank you. Anyway, I'm here, finally. As you can imagine, it's late and I'm pretty bushed. I'm gonna sign off now, get a good night's rest, and buzz you in the morning. Love you guys. Kiss Katie for me. May 24, 8:47 a.m. Damn it, I had you there for a sec, but then you were gone. It looks like the signal's too weak out here in bumfuck Montana. Alright, until I can figure something else out, I'll drive into town every couple of days and call you from there. In the meantime, it'll have to be dictated by texts and emails. As long as I can get a single bar for a few seconds, I can send those. In other news, as Chalmers promised, all the basics are in good shape here. The power's on, the heater puts out warm air, and the plumbing works fine. There's no cable or internet, but Chalmers says we can get satellite service if we decide to keep the compound. Okay, I'm off to do some more in-depth exploring. I'm gonna start with the bunker and work my way topside. Wish me luck. Maybe there's gold in these here hills. Talk later. May 24, 12:58 p.m. Quick break for lunch. I figured I'd squeeze in my first update while I'm at it. The verdict thus far? Thumbs way up. Sure, it looks like something from that Doomsday Preppers show with all the pipes and conduits and shit running everywhere. But I have to say, old cousin Hank put a lot of work into this place. Apparently, in addition to being a complete fucking wackadoo, Hank was a regular Bob Vila. I'll send some pics later. For now, here's the gist. The compound sits inside a huge fenced-off area the size of a football field, and it's all poured concrete. Scattered about the sea of concrete are several piles of rubble where various small buildings used to stand. In the middle of it all are a pair of massive generators and a rounded turret-like structure that reminds me of that place in Star Wars where Luke lived with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, the one on Tatooine. Anywho, inside this turret thing is a small vestibule and a heavy vault door. Beyond this door is a marble stairwell that descends to a second vault door, which finally leads to the core bunker facility. Here's where things get interesting. You enter a large oval chamber through the final door that Chalmers told me originally served as a security checkpoint, a place where badges were checked and personal belongings were stored. The original purchasers completely gutted the chamber and fashioned it into a sort of common area, which Hank then beefed up after buying it from them. In addition to installing a full kitchen and a full bar, he added a pool table, several fluffy sofas, and 2 60-inch flat screens. Hanging off this ultra-awesome central hub are what Chalmers referred to as the facility's 9 fingers. 3 full bathrooms, 3 rooms converted into bedrooms, a utility room, what used to be a communications room, and a library. No, Ellie, that's not a typo. There's a library here, a decent one at that, containing every manner of book imaginable. Novels, biographies, encyclopedias, high-level math and science texts, plus a whole slew of radio and communication manuals. Kooky shit, huh? I mean, Big Hank McSorley was no dum-dum, but I severely doubt the inclusion of such titles as Basic String Theory and The Wave Mechanics Almanac was his doing. My guess is the military left most of it behind when they skedaddled, and the first owners simply added to what they left. Crap, I need to get going. I have a 2 o'clock meeting with the Missoula PD. Forgot to tell you. They have several boxes full of Hank's effects, the stuff they snatched from the compound when they combed it for evidence. And they want me to come get it all. It's a half-hour drive, so I better get moving. Love you, baby. I'll keep you posted. May 24, 5:26 p.m. I tried calling when I was in town, but it just kept ringing. Guessing you went to lunch with the girls. Anyway, get this. The police had 3 boxes waiting for me. Inside the boxes were journals, stacks upon stacks of them, belonging to Hank and his 2 sons, Daryl and Jody, who lived in the bunker with Hank and served as his accomplices during the Hazleton Mall massacre. At first, I thought Detective Hamill was fucking with me. Hank, Daryl, and Jody McSorley writing in journals? But then he showed me some of the writings. He told me how they chronicled the men's deterioration in the months leading up to the mall disaster. I must have made a weird face because the guy grabbed my shoulder and recited some platitude about how we can't help who we're related to. Then he helped carry the boxes to the car and wished me well in the future. As I drove back, I started thinking about what the detective said, and it struck me that I truly am Hank McSorley's closest living relative. Of course, I knew this before. I just didn't think I'd ever fully processed what that meant. Well, process it I did. And as I approached the compound, I grew disgusted and furious, and decided I would burn everything associated with the McSorleys. The boxes, the compound, the land, just raze it all. However, as I parked the truck, I had an abrupt change of heart. I figured, fuck it. Why let this all go to waste? Besides, while I hate to admit it, part of me is curious to know what was going on in Hank's head prior to his murdering 27 innocent people. So rather than raze it all, I sat down with the journals and began reading. And reading. And reading. Baby, the McSorleys were far worse off than I ever knew. Worse than anyone other than the police ever knew. From what I've gleaned so far, the boys came to believe some seriously freaky shit near the end. Like, I'm slowly changing into something non-human freaky. Going by the dates recorded at the start of each journal entry, it all started about 2 months prior to the mall incident, right around the time they discovered something called the Red Room. I'm not sure what this Red Room is exactly, as I've only seen it mentioned a couple of times, but all 3 men seem to revere and despise it in equal measure. Well, that's about it for now. I'll do some more reading and get back to you soon. May 24, 9:13 p.m. Interesting quote from Hank's journal. We found the Red Room by accident, and because we are not cowardly, we went inside. In that cave-like place, which I reckon is somehow very far away, we saw things. Things that looked like red dust or moss. Things that moved. Damn fool that he is, Daryl decided to stir some of it up with his boot. Like dust will do, it flew up into the air, making a kind of red cloud, and we all breathed it in. We've all been coughing since, and all of our lungs hurt. Things feel different. I think we're infected now. In their journals, Daryl and Jody echo this infected claim, with each blaming the same red moss, and it only gets loopier from there. According to Hank's squirrely thinking, the infection was unlike anything humans had ever seen before. It could think and communicate like a human, and its onset was quite bizarre. Hank said it started subtly, producing symptoms that were actually quite pleasant. He claimed it felt like he was floating in a haze of nitrous oxide. The next phase was far less enjoyable, with the infection spreading slowly through the rest of his body and soul. As it spread, it stripped away all traces of civility until there was nothing left except the primal self. At this point, the journal entries become erratic and hard to follow. Outright gibberish. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? Just keep in mind all of this comes with a fairly large caveat. When the police raided the bunker after the mall shooting, they found massive stores of pre-packaged meth hidden in the storage shed located topside. My guess is the McSorleys were just blitzed out of their minds when they wrote in their journals. God damn it. There it is again. Sorry, Ellie, something I need to go check on. May 24, 9:41 p.m. Sorry again. I'm fairly certain there's a problem with rabbits or gophers on the property. I've seen a bunch of holes topside, and I can sometimes hear the varmints tunneling through the earth beyond the bunker's walls. One wall in particular. The one at the back of the room that used to serve as the comm room. For some reason, the wall in there is whiter than the rest, like it has a fresher coat of paint. Yeah, as a writer, I see some freaky connections amongst everything I just recited, but come on now. If anything's freaky, it's that I used the word varmints, like I'm Yosemite fucking Sam. Speaking of writing, I've somehow managed to get a little writing done here. In my downtime, I've cranked out 8 pages. Seems this place and all the red moss nonsense suits my muse. Hey, tell Katie I'm sorry about her nose. Keep letting her know it will heal correctly. Our poor honey. It has to be killing her that she can't play softball for 3 whole weeks. Thank God for the voice-to-text app on my phone. Typing this all out would be a bitch. Love you. I'll call later on when I head into town. May 27, 12:23 p.m. Quick email to say I'm okay. I honestly don't know what happened. I lost over a day and a half. Physically, I feel fine, so I doubt it's anything medical. Maybe there's noxious gas trapped in here or something. I don't know. I'm heading into town to call you. May 27, 9:56 p.m. In and out of the ER in record time. I love small-town living. Much to my relief, the doc couldn't find anything wrong with me. When I was released, I asked around about getting the bunker tested for carbon monoxide and whatnot, and wound up getting in touch with a local home inspector. I spoke with him, and he agreed to bring his equipment today. He stayed for a couple of hours and didn't find anything unusual. Go figure. All right, it's been another long day. I am heading to bed. Love you. May 28, 3:56 p.m. Slept in. Had some weird-ass dreams. I managed to get some more writing done, several pages worth. After these last few days, though, I almost want to scrap the novel and start over with an idea based around the McSorleys. I won't, though. I'll keep it on ice until the next one. But I seriously considered it. At least I don't have writer's block. May 28, 7:11 p.m. Sorry I haven't called, but I've been busy. The white wall I spoke of before, it's vibrating softly. So softly it's almost imperceptible, but it's there. I felt it against my palms. I also tapped on the wall with my knuckles and found sounds and feels different from the other walls, like it's hollow, like there might be a hidden room on the other side. I recall seeing a sledgehammer in the tool shed up above. No phone call tonight. I have my work cut out for me. Love you. Talk in the morning. Kiss Katie for me and tell her I'm proud of her for not moping about the nose. May 29, 5:02 a.m. Took some work, but I broke through the wall last night. I was only partially right, Ellie. There is a hollow space beyond it, 2 feet's worth. But after that, there's another wall with a vault-style door, like the one up above. Believe me, my mind has been spinning. Obviously, the brothers McSorley put the walls up before going on their kill-a-thon. And obviously, the police missed it altogether. Fucking idiots. Granted, I'm sort of glad they missed it. Now I have a genuine mystery on my hands. I know. Convention says I should notify the cops at once. But to hell with that. I discovered it, and I want to be the one to see what's inside. My hunch says it's just another room with nothing in it, like Al Capone's secret vault. But it also says anything is possible given the lengths the McSorleys went to conceal its existence. After a few hours sleep, I'm going to take down a lot more of the wall. See what's what. Talk to you when I know more. May 29, 8:33 a.m. Tore that fucker down! The whole damn thing! My next obstacle is to open the door. But to do that, I need a key. There's a key ring around here somewhere. One of the keys on it's bound to work. How wild is this? It's like one of those things you always hear about happening to someone else. Yet here it is, happening to me. May 29, 9:14 a.m. Can't find the key. Not a single one on the ring works. Lost my shit big time, and I'm forcing myself to calm down. May 29, 10:05 a.m. Quick update. I checked the boxes with journals and found Hank's car keys. On the ring was a funky-looking key, so I tried it, and it worked. Next up, going in. Wish me luck finding something cool. May 29, 10:57 a.m. Talk about a letdown. It's just a room. A big room, bigger than the rest, with the lights still on. Except it's empty, and there's nothing particularly special about it, other than an odd smell, like that of mold, grapes, and rotten meat all rolled into one. I bet this was how Geraldo Rivera felt after breaking into Al Capone's secret vault. Hang on. Dizzy all of a sudden. May 31, 4:32 a.m. Lost time again. I woke up an hour ago, but the phone was dead, so I had to charge it. I just got all your texts and emails. I'd like to say I'm okay, but something isn't right. What the fuck? I think I'm just going to pack up and leave. That makes the most sense. It shouldn't take long, just my clothes and laptop, which I now realize I left in the hidden room. All right, fuck it. I'll call you in a bit when I'm on the road. Love you, baby. May 31, 5:27 a.m. The Red Room exists, Ellie. It actually fucking exists. I've seen it. It's behind the door, in the walled-up room, hidden from sight. You can only see it if you walk to the far wall and turn around. I don't know how or why. I wouldn't have even noticed it if I hadn't turned the lights off on the way out after grabbing my laptop. See, when I shut the lighty lights off, it got darky dark in there, except not completely. There was a pussy pink glow on the far wall with no apparent source. And like a dummy dum-dum, I wanted to have a look-see. I went to the wall and touched it and glanced back, and there it was, plain as day. The Red Room. How do you do? Very good, sir. How about you? May 31, 5:38 a.m. Sorry, got a case of the giggles for a minute, right out of the blue. I think I'm okay now. Christ. Back to what I was saying. When I turned around, I was confronted with a perfectly circular doorway about 8 feet in diameter, which you can't see from any other angle in the room. Past the doorway is what can best be described as a large cave made of smooth, slightly translucent stone. All over the stone grow splotches of blood-red moss. At least, it resembles moss. Only this moss can move on its own. Slowly, but it can move. Theories abound in my mind as to what the fuck this is. Am I crazy for wanting to go into the Red Room? I'm attaching a pic I took. Yeah, I think I'm going to take a closer look. I have a feeling we have an epic discovery on our hands. Hugs and kisses for my missus. May 31, 5:55 a.m. Got to the doorway, but was too chicken shit to go through. I started to just leave, but then it happened. The best I can put it, the red moss reached out and let me know it was okay. Which means, yes, the red moss is alive. A thing capable of communication. Flip-flap Applejacks. We had a nice conversation, the red moss and me. It made me comfy and gave me quite the history lesson. It wants us to know because keeping it a secret doesn't matter. In a month or so, everyone will know. Here are the broad strokes of what it shared. The Air Force originally built the bunker as a hub to network the various missile silos scattered throughout Montana. In time, a better site took over as the hub, and the bunker's purpose shifted. It became a research, development, and experimentation station, performing tests presently being conducted at the CERN facility in Europe, just on a much smaller scale. Most of the experiments they conducted here were fruitless, save for the assay they ran involving particle acceleration. The moss says the assay caused a microscopic perforation in the universal fabric, which none of the testers ever noticed because the experiment ruined their equipment. The moss was able to reach through the perforation, but it couldn't communicate very well. Mostly just gave the techs headaches and nausea. Not that it had many chances. Following the incident, the government shut the program down and abandoned the bunker. For decades after that, it sat in mothballs. Then the government began selling off its unused properties to the highest bidder. Eventually, Hank McSorley came to be its owner. Before Hank and the boys' arrival, the perforation was relatively small, growing no bigger than a dime. This changed, however, 5 years after the McSorleys moved in. Evidently, my dipshit cousins had gotten into the business of making and selling homemade bombs to fellow doomsday enthusiasts. They stored them in the hidden room. One of them was poorly made and accidentally detonated there. Even though it was a small one, its blast set off a chain reaction the likes of which my brain cannot fully comprehend. The perforation slowly expanded, and because it originated counter to the far wall, its expansion went unnoticed until just a few months ago, when Hank happened upon the pink glow one evening while wandering drunkenly around the bunker. By then, it was the size of a doorway. Once the boys all saw it for themselves, they armed themselves with shotguns and marched right on in. The moss welcomed them. It explained itself as the apex of a species that had lived for billions of years in a world similar to ours, but with the sun nearing implosion. It also revealed that the Red Room is not a room or cave, but a structure reminiscent of a communal home. Being of medial intelligence, the McSorleys fully ignored the scientific implications of what they had stumbled upon, and instead began devising ways to exploit it. Jody, in particular, felt they could use the doorway to make a fortune by charging people to see it. Hank had other designs. He shared them with his boys, and soon enough, women from all over Montana started disappearing. Crap, the battery's almost dead. May 31, 7:01 a.m. Plugged in and charging. So, yeah, those sons of bitches kidnapped teenage girls from all over, brought them down into the bunker, and, well, let's leave it at that. They dumped their victims in the Red Room when they were finished with their debaucheries, believing no one would ever find them. The moss has since grown over the bones, but it assures me it has preserved the skeletons. The moss has since grown over the bones, but it assures me it has preserved the skeletons. The flesh, formerly on the bones? It seems human cells contain a host of nutrients the moss finds useful. Oh boy. It's calling me. May 31, 7:25 a.m. Did something wrong. It wants me to start writing down all of this, like a testament. God, my lungs feel funny, like I'm breathing grains of sand. May 31, 7:42 p.m. Well rested and feeling good like that Gorillaz song. I'm happy, not feeling bad. I got sunshine all in a bag. I guess 12 hours of uninterrupted sleep will do that for a man. May 31, 8:18 p.m. Topside. I am thinking clearly again, but I'm a little nervous. Something's different. My chest, breathing. Lungs are heavy, and it feels like the air is laced with microscopic razor blades. My head is starting to hurt too, and my memory of the day is spotty. I know I sent you an email. Beyond that, it's just fragmented. It's dark outside, so I've missed time again. There's something else, too. Underneath it all, I feel different, like on an atomic level. My hands don't feel like my own. Baby, I've got to get the hell out of here. Soon. May 31, 9:25 p.m. Down in a hole. I'm feeling so small. I was up above it. Now I'm down in it. Wait, I'm mixing up bands and lyrics. Alice in Chains and 9 Inch Nails. Alice in Nails. 9 Inch Chains. All the same, it's in me now. I am going for a test drive. It doesn't want to die when its sun goes white dwarf. I don't blame it. The test with my cousins didn't go so well. I don't think it's going well with me either. I'm feeling sick. May 31, 10:48 p.m. Urges. 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 May 31, 11:13 p.m. I'm sorry, Ellie. I'm so sorry. Losing hold. I love you. I love Katie. Sweet Katie. I love the moss. Not its fault. Stripping down inside. Layers are peeling off. Layers that I need. I think I see a path in my head. The way home. To you. To Katie. Leave. 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 Get out of the house. Oh, God. June 1, 9:55 a.m. Gee whiz, honey. Please ignore those last few messages. I got a bit drunk last night and wow. Really, I'm fine. You're fine. We're all fine around the mulberry bush. I'm on my way home now. I should be there in a few hours. I can't wait to see you. Call the cops. June 1, 3:36 p.m. Billings, you're not answering my calls. Thinking about your slender neck. June 1, 6:53 p.m. Casper. June 1, 11:29 p.m. Denver. Go Broncos. June 2, 1:34 a.m. Made it home. There were cops outside the house. I kept driving. Why aren't you answering your phone? Are you even home? June 2, 2:06 a.m. Going back. It needs us. It needs me to bring more to it. Lots of folks can go missing. I can't stand it much longer. Love you and Katie. Maybe we'll see each other again. My head hurts, baby. It hurts so bad. Everyone will know soon. Run as far as you can. June 2, 4:23 a.m. Oh God, Ellie. I just realized the door will remain open. Whether it comes through or not, the door will remain open, and it will only get bigger. Do you know what happens when a star collapses? Oh God, oh God, oh God. It won't be fast. It won't be fast at all. June 2, 12:17 p.m. It's all on fire now. The cave, the bunker, the whole thing. It's screaming in my head, stripping me away. I can feel it. It hurts. Tell Katie I'm sorry. So sorry. Daddy tried in the end. He really did. How it hurts. Call someone, anyone. The door is still open.
That was The Red Room, written by W.B. Stickel and performed by Erik Peabody, host of Horror Hill. That tale's a reminder that some walls hold more than history. Erik's delivery never fails to make your blood run cold, and the room he opened tonight might have just let something else out. If you're not already tuning into Horror Hill, now's the time. Subscribe wherever fine podcasts are buried, and be sure to catch up on all 13 seasons of blood-curdling brilliance. Tonight, we didn't just unearth 3 terrifying tales. We unearthed origins, the beginnings of voices that have shaped horror podcasts as we know them. To explore more of those roots, check out the original episodes of Drew Blood's Dark Tales, Fear from the Heartland, and Horror Hill, all available on our YouTube channel in their respective playlists. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your support helps us keep these nightmares alive. And trust me, they're hungry. To get even more content early, ad-free, and exclusive, join us at chillingtalesfordarknights.com and become a patron of the night. We're also creeping around on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us for updates, announcements, and eerie extras. Once again, I'm Steve Taylor, and it's been an honor to guide you through this descent. Until next time, turn off the lights and turn on the dark. Sweet dreams, listeners. Sweet dreams.
Chilling tales for dark nights.